Hi 3B. After speaking to 3A this morning, it became clear to me that a lot of you need a little bit more support with filling out your sheets on OneNote. So I've created this video just so that you can have it playing while you're answering the notes on the OneNote. I'm aware that most of you have now watched the videos and that you know Act 3 pretty well, so we can go straight into adding to these notes. When you've read Act 3, the areas of focus are foils, the key scene, and the theme of persuasion. So let's look at that just now. First of all, what is a foil? Well, a foil in drama is when you have two characters and they'll be foils of each other if they are very similar in a lot of ways and they've got things in common, but they're also very, very different, or they choose different paths. So if you think about Harry Potter, one of his foils has got to be Voldemort, because although they were both orphans, they both have the same sort of magical links, they obviously dealt with things in very, very different ways. So quite often a foil becomes the main enemy of the other person, but not always, and we'll talk about that in relation to this play. Well, why is it important then? Well, a foil creates drama because it creates conflict. If you don't have conflict, you've probably not got much of a story. If you imagine Julius Caesar, if everyone just agreed that, yeah, he probably should go, or no, he probably shouldn't, where's your story? So foils are really important, especially in drama, because one of the main dramatic techniques that we will talk about is conflict. So try and go into your OneNote and answer those questions just now based on what I've just said. Remember, you can hopefully type onto it. If you can't, you'll just need to make notes down at the bottom and drag them up, or just use your finger and write over them. So pause the video and do that now. This next section here, Act 3, Scene 1, is just to get you thinking just now. So Brutus and Cassius are talking just before Mark Antony turns up on the scene. And Brutus says, I know that we shall have him well to a friend, but Cassius replies, I wish we may, but yet I have a mind that fears him much, and my misgivings still fall shrewdly to the purpose. They both react very differently to Mark Antony coming. Think about how Brutus reacts to him coming, and think about how Cassius reacts to him coming. Now, they've both taken part in killing Julius Caesar. They both know that Mark Antony is an ally of Julius Caesar. But why is it that Brutus is happy to meet Mark Antony? Why does Brutus think that Mark Antony is going to be fine? And why is it that Cassius knows that he's absolutely not going to be fine? What does this reveal about them? And that's quite a difficult thing to think of. So I will put something on Teams as well, because I just would love to get your ideas and to think about what you're thinking with that question. Don't need to write notes down as such though, I just want you to think about it. But the next slide along, you do need to write onto your OneNote. So we're going to now get you to create Venn diagrams. Well, they've already been created, you just need to fill them in. So Venn diagram is when you've got two circles representing two things, and where the circle overlaps, that is where the two things have things in common. So first of all, think about Cassius and Brutus. Now, they're not enemies, they're on the same side, but in a lot of ways they can be seen as foils. Because Cassius and Brutus, of course, they have lots in common, and wherever they've got something in common, I want you to try and add it into the bit in the middle. But they also deal with things in very different ways. They have different types of character, and those are the things I want you to put on the outer bits of the circles. So I want you to have a think about that. Pause the video and have a go at doing that. And remember, I will be checking your OneNote, so if you're struggling, I should be able to see, but you could always tag me in a wee team message to say, Mrs. Hamilton, can you please check my Venn diagram? Or can you check my character circles or something? Okay, so pause the video and do that now. Moving on then to look at the key scene. Now, this is a key scene because it is a turning point scene for everyone in the play. This scene will always be written about in every essay about Julius Caesar. You cannot write an essay about Julius Caesar and not mention something from Mark Antony's speech. Okay, it is the most important part of the play. More important than actually Caesar getting stabbed. That was just a plot point. This is the bit where everything changes. Okay? Now, one of the big things about this scene is it's all about the art of rhetoric. But what is rhetoric? Well, rhetoric is simply the art of persuasion. So rhetoric is your argument that you use to persuade someone else of something. So add that into your notes just now. Rhetorical devices that you might use are very similar to the ones that you did use in your persuasive essays, where you used rhetoric there and you actually did it really well. So you might use repetition, write that down. Rhetorical questions, write that down. Emotive language. Irony, and we'll talk about irony in a minute. And the power of three. So note those down onto your notes for OneNote. I want you to remember irony. Irony is when you say something that's the opposite to what you mean, okay? Now, your audience also has to be aware that you're being ironic, otherwise they'll misunderstand you. I want you to think about that when you read Mark Antony's speech again. Can you see any irony? So I'm going to read this out to you again, okay? As I'm reading it out, if you see the power of three, I want you to highlight it or circle it. If you see any emotive language, for example, evil, that would be an emotive word, circle that. If you see any repetition, so any words or phrases that are repeated, that are said over and over again, circle them. If you see the power of three, circle that. If you see any examples of irony, make sure you've got them written down, because actually the ironic statements in this are probably quotations you're going to want to use in a Brutus essay. Here goes. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them, the good is often tarred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus hath told you Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously hath Caesar answered it. Here, under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honourable man. So are they all honourable men. Come I to speak in Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, faithful and just to me, but Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honourable man. He hath brought many captives home to Rome, whose ransoms did the general coffers fill. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious? When that the poor have cried, Caesar hath wept. Ambitious should be made of sterner stuff. Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honourable man. You all did see that on the Lupercal I thrice presented him a kingly crown, which he did thrice refuse. Sorry, I'll go back to that. Which he did thrice refuse. Was this ambition? Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and sure, he is an honourable man. I speak not to disprove what Brutus spoke, but here I am to speak what I do know. You all did love him once, not without cause. What cause withhold you then to mourn for him? O judgment, they are fled to brutish beasts, and men have lost their reason. Bear with me. My heart is in the coffin there with Caesar, and I must pause till it come back to me. So highlight any examples of rhetorical devices. If we can, we'll also maybe do a wee bit of a competition who can actually memorise this speech, because I think it's a fabulous speech, and it's one of those ones that adults just seem to know in conversation, especially the first line, if nothing else. So I want you to think about, where's repetition? Where is irony especially? Where's the emotive language? Where's the power of three? And I can't remember what the last one is, but if you go back, you'll hear me talking about them, and you should have made notes already anyway. So find them and circle them. You can even have a different colour for every different device. Okay, on you go. Right, thinking about irony then. All I want you to do is think about what happens to the phrase Brutus is an honourable man each time you hear it. Okay, and I want you to make notes in that box. And if you find any other devices by looking at the speech properly again, add them into there as well. And just like you did the last time, I want you to now look at Antony and Brutus. They're your main foils in this play, okay? Antony is definitely a foil of Brutus and vice versa. So I want you to think about, what do they have in common? Think about things like their respect, their standing in society, their ideals. They're actually quite similar. If you ask them both, what do you value most? They value similar things. And yet, how do they differ? Okay, so I need you to have notes on this because you will be mentioning the difference, the foil between Antony and Brutus in your essay. It's really, really essential that you do this. Finally, I just want you to add notes to make sure you've answered these Act 3 discussion questions. And by doing all this, you will have filled out all your notes for this week. Okay, off you go.